Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Senator Huffman. And I also wish to extend my congratulations to you on your first session as the chair of the Finance Committee. And I know how hard the work is and how time-consuming and all the months that have gone into it. You have presented us with an extensive bill layout. What I wanted to go over, in your bill layout, you mentioned groups that received pay raises. I think it was DPS and state employees. Which ones were?
The state employees across the board. There's a lot of pay raises in this budget. There's pay raises for community attendant wages, which is significant, a $2 billion cost to the state. We raised the pay for a lot of the different nurses that work in the state hospital, TDCJ, TJJD, to bring them up so that there's parity between them, because we were having problems with them going from one to the other. So there are a lot of pay raises in this bill.
And those are great, wonderful things, because historically we've had a lot of turnover, and it's been difficult to keep people in those positions, and it's more expensive to go out and recruit, onboard, train, and all of those things. So it's much better to keep them, and they provide better services.
Yes.
Are any of those pay raises for those employees, are they any of those contingents on the passage of any other legislation?
Not that I can think of offhand. I do not believe so.
So then the only pay raise in this budget that's contingent upon the passage of other legislation is the teacher's pay raise.
I think that is correct.
Is there a policy reason for that?
The teacher pay raise is part of the education package. And again, I want to make it clear that there is about a $4 billion bucket set aside, cannot be spent on anything else other than the funding that would flow through the FSP formula, which includes teachers' compensation, and it's again at 3.996.7. So that money is set aside in the budget, but it's contingent upon the passage of legislation.
In 2019, you were on the Finance Committee, correct?
Yes.
In 2019, we came in and we increased money in the basic allotment in order to get teachers a pay raise then, did we not?
I don't recall specifically, but we have been giving teacher pay raises the last few sessions, yes.
I think that's exactly how it went. And I remember in 2019, we wanted to focus on public schools. And I remember this session, there was a call from leaders across the Capitol for an increase in safety for our schools, a reduction of turnover for our teachers, and what could we do to improve public safety in our schools. And that's something that we all address. And questions that I have on the budget in terms of public education, it seems to me that there's a significant increase in the recapture. And I'm not sure if you see here, but my estimates show that the recapture is an increase of $3.6 billion to $9.3 billion from where it was last biennium at $5.7 billion. And I was just wondering, what is that increase, that $3.6 billion fund?
With the funding, if the property tax relief bill goes through, and they're still negotiating, but I believe we will have, the budget allocates and assumes $17.6 billion of property tax relief, and there's significant compression in that figure, it will lead to recapture numbers going down. Now, it's hard to speak to specifics at this point because we don't know exactly what that bill is going to look like. Some of it's in homestead exemptions, some of it's in compression, and those numbers have not been decided upon. So it's hard to say what the specific recapture savings will be. But there will be a savings with this much money going into compression.
And that's something.
And there's other bills, part of the education package. Again, I don't know what's going to pass, so I'm a little bit at a disadvantage here. But there are provisions in the education bill that he passed out, Senator Creighton passed out, that would give even more relief from recapture. But I really can't speak to those because I don't know what's going to pass. But sure. Our goal is to both, lower recapture, chip away at it as much as we can. And the goal is also to give teachers a pay raise. I support giving teachers a pay raise. I support it 100%. And I'm going to be working along with Senator Creighton to make sure that happens. It's just we are in a unique situation here where we had to get the budget passed, but we're still negotiating billion-dollar items. But our goal, our intent, our wish, and what we intend to accomplish is to give our teachers pay raises, to give significant property tax relief that, when that happens, will lower recapture for many of our school districts.
I agree with you 100%. So that's why I don't understand why we didn't do it this session like we did in 2019 by just throwing the money through the basic allotment. If we increase that and we told the school districts, then we can fund a teacher pay raise. We don't make it contingent upon a bill passing that has items in there where the other chamber has already voted several occasions on that they were not in support. And so therefore, in essence, it feels as if we're holding their pay raise hostage. And I know that's not your intention.
It's not my intention. I believe they will get a pay raise when it's all said and done. I believe that.
The Legislative Budget Board is the organization, the agency that we use in finance and appropriations to help us as we guide in terms of population growth and stuff. So Legislative Budget Board estimates that inflation and population are going to grow by 12.3% from 2022 to 2024. And they're in those figures, funding for inflation and population would require about $10.4 billion, but in the current budget, it seems that the proposed appropriations $4.9 billion. But I heard that I'm not sure if you said in your layout that we fully funded inflation, so I'm confused.
You're going to have to tell me which funds which pots of money you're talking about. Are you talking about the basic allotment?
Yes.
Or the initial allotment?
Yes, the new initial allotment.
The new initial allotment. We fully funded based on projections given to us by the LBB for property tax, wealth growth, the value of the property, and enrollment growth. So we fully funded the projections in this budget. And as you know, a lot of our budget is done on projections. That's what we have to do. Sometimes they're better than others, but we go with the number that is given to us by LBB, and we make a determination, and we fully funded that increase in this budget.
Also my understanding that in order to pay for the teacher retirement COLA, that some of the financings or the funds are coming from active teachers. Is that correct?
That is incorrect.
Incorrect.
The money that's going for retired teachers is completely paid out of GR. Now, it will be constitutionally dedicated, but we are writing a check for it so that there's no cost to the pension fund. It doesn't hurt the pension fund. It's paid in advance to ensure that the recipients will receive this COLA for the rest of their life. Very
good. In 2020, the basic allotment, then it was known as the basic allotment, now renamed as the initial allotment, was $61.60. What will the initial allotment be in 2023 and 24?
I don't know, because a lot of that's going to be dependent upon which education bills pass out of here. Ultimately passed, yeah.
My understanding that in the basic allotment in House Bill 100 has a $50 increase.
I'm not sure of that, but I can look real fast. I mean, again, there's a lot of funding that's not yet put into the formula and so forth because we're waiting for legislation. So I think it would be, I don't think it would be transparent at this point to say definitively what the initial allotment will end up being when this, when all this finally is put to bed.
And so the budget's printed and it's finished, and today we just vote up or down on the conference committee report.
Yes.
But House Bill 100, my understanding is that the House has appointed conferees. I'm not sure if we've appointed conferees. That bill that will be the trigger for what you've said in terms of many funding streams and teacher pay raise, that one we really don't know what the potential outcome of it is, and we only have 2 or 3 days left of session. Is that correct?
That's correct. I do not know the outcome, and I don't know exactly where Senator Creighton is in the negotiations. I can yield to him if you have specific questions about that, but I've not been a party to those negotiations. I can tell you the funding is there and it's waiting, and when there is an agreement reached between the chambers, then the money will be appropriated.
My research shows, let's switch gears for a little bit. My research shows that there was an increase of $400 million for border security. I think the total spending right now is about $5 billion. I think it's broken down by, $1 billion for border wall maintenance, $1.4 billion for the governor's use for border operations, $750 million for DPS border security, $5.1 million for grants for local security contingency in Rider 7. And so as I look at all of those figures, the $64 million in the Texas Border Fence, outside of the contingency rider for House Bill 7, all of those are already in the budget, correct?
The money for the border, yes, is in the budget, yes.
And so we increased it by $400 million, is that correct?
That sounds about right, yes.
Thank you. Thank you for taking my questions.
Okay.